Hey guys, and welcome. My name's NG Paradox, and we're here with something familiar but different. You may think that this looks like CK2, a Game of Thrones mod, and while my channel is quite well known for that mod, and I've done many series on that mod, this is actually something different. This is a new mod for CK2, set in a Game of Thrones, or also known as A Song of Ice and Fire. This is Crusader Kings 2, The Seven Kingdoms. Now, this mod has been on my radar for a while. It's been in development for a little bit, and I've been trying to wait to see how far it will get when it was a bit more polished, a bit more ready, and they are ready to release this mod to the public very soon. If what I've been told is correct, it should be around the 20th of May, so you guys will download this for yourself and try a new experience in Westeros. Now, you're probably asking, why should you download this mod over Crusader Kings 2, A Game of Thrones? Well, that's why I'm here today to show you. I'm going to show you the differences between this mod and the Game of Thrones mod, and show you the advantages and the disadvantages, the good things and the bad. And there are definitely some interesting differences that do make it feel like a different experience. Now, this game, obviously this mod, is still being developed, so there are some things that have not been added yet, some things that are missing. For example, they want to add Valyrian steel swords at some point in the future. They've not been added in just yet, but they will be in the future. They haven't even released the actual open version of the mod just yet. There are still things, though, they want to develop. So that's kind of an exciting idea, the fact that we have a new mod to also look forward to. Now, there is only one scenario, but this scenario, I think, is one of the biggest advantages of this mod. It is set during the Age of Petty Kings, or we could say the Andal invasion. With the aggressive expansion of the domineering Valyrian Empire, it was inevitable that one day the Andal kingdom would fall to fire and brimstone. Indeed, even the fair Republic of Lorath would fall with it, and so the last of the Andals would flee west to a new land inhabited by the native First Men. However, it would begin a new age of bloodshed for the Andals that would not seek integration with the natives, but would strive to carve out kingdoms of their own, built upon the bones of the First Men and their gods. This is the age of the Petty Kings. So yes, if you're not really up to date or knowledgeable on your history of A Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, basically the Andals were people from Essos, the north of Essos, and when the Valyrian Freehold came and conquered them, a lot of them fled over to Westeros. These people brought with them their own culture. They were very similar, in looks maybe to the First Men in quite a few ways, but they had different cultures and different, specifically, religions. So the faith of the Seven is actually the religion of the Andals. So some of them would even carve, seven-pointed stars into their skin with blood running down to show their piety. Pretty crazy people, some of them. Very, very, shall we say, zealous, some of them, to do that. Obviously, the First Men believed in the old gods. So, obviously, the Northmen are normally considered, First Men in the main series. Something that is mentioned because they believe in the old gods. Now, this scenario is not just interesting for the cultural and religious fighting going on in this period. Also, if you can look at the map right now, you can see many, many kingdoms. There's so many different kingdoms to choose from. You don't have the normal North. You don't have the normal Restlands and the Vale. You have different families and different kings to try and conquer the lands with. This means there's a lot more fractured experience. And also, the map only contains this much. It does not go into Essos except for the land that is connected to the Narrow Sea. So that is also a different experience. So that's one of the first advantages and disadvantages. If you're a fan of Essos and the different places and people there, then this mod obviously gets rid of that. But it also gives a lot more detail to the people of Westeros. As you can see, if we go closer in, there's actually a lot more counties along these lands. So you may have a smaller area of the map of A Game of Thrones, but the actual map size, if I've been told correctly, is a similar size to the Game of Thrones mod. I think they might have even said it's actually bigger than the Game of Thrones mod when it comes to the number of provinces. So there is that. So if you want Westeros to be more detailed, this is definitely the mod for you. I'm quickly going to go over and run down some nice features and differences, and then I'm going to go into a bit more details. If you only want the kind of basic information, It'll be done very quickly. If you want a bit more detail, you can continue to the end of the video. So yes, so as we can see here, one of the other main features is because of the many fractured kingdoms. This allows you then to kind of create your own kingdom, destroy and conquer others. The Reach and the Stormlands are actually Empire tier titles. A lot of the others are kingdoms. Some interesting characters, for example, are Mud King Tristan Mud, be a very popular one for a lot of people. Also, if you go north, you can see the wall. So they've actually managed to make a little mod of the wall. I've heard rumors or ideas there may be possible they're going to be adding other things onto the map. So some very cool ideas for this mod. Also, another really important thing to point out is in Fair Isle. This is probably my favorite thing. In Goldland, there is Count Parry of House Dox. I'm actually going to jump in as these guys. Now, if you don't know what this is about, basically, in the Game of Thrones mod, I made a custom house for one of my series, and I created House Dox, which is basically my family. Really fun series, one of my most popular series on the channel, and the guys who developed this mod were really nice and added in my family into the mod, which is absolutely amazing. I love that. Obviously, because there's a lot more counties and stuff in the game, I'm assuming they probably have a lot of land where they had to kind of fill in the gaps of different families and stuff. I haven't been able to play the mod too much, because obviously I haven't had enough time at this moment in time. But from what I have seen, there are some places maybe where I don't know the families' names. It might be that they're really small, they've had to fill in some different families, and also there's going to be some extinct families in the game. And actually, for example, the Manderleys are down here in the Reach, which is kind of cool to see, obviously, because that's where they come from. But for Parry Dox, I love the fact they're in here. The Lobster Merchant. And the sigil, look at that. The sigil is exactly the same. They got the sigil exactly the same. Actually, now looking at this, I'm actually upset about one thing. There's no ugly. Why is he not ugly? I'm going to have to ask them if they can add ugly. We can't have a Dox family with no one being ugly. That makes no sense. But yeah, enough about the Dox family. That's only people who watch that series. Obviously, some of you do not care about that. But yeah, this really adds some interesting things. Now, there are some disadvantages. Now, one of the disadvantages is some of the features like Valyrian Steel Swords have not been added. So if we go to the Royces over here, we have the Bronze King Robo Royce. There is no Valyrian Steel Sword, which is a shame. This is something that will be added in the future, they've told us, but it's not been added yet. So there are some like events and features which are not in this mod, which you will find in the Game of Thrones mod. Obviously, that mod is a lot older, has a lot more of those sort of intrinsic features. So if you really like those features, this won't have them. But this mod was developed with multiplayer in mind. As you guys might know if you've ever tried to play the CK2 Game of Thrones mod, the multiplayer is not always that kind. A lot of the events and things you can do, for example, I think dragons sometimes can crash the mod in multiplayer. That's not good. So this mod was kind of developed with the idea of having multiplayer, specifically as well in Westeros. So I think this scenario is a really good choice because you have so many broken up kingdoms and stuff, and also there won't be they're trying to make events and stuff that won't break the multiplayer. So that's really good. So it's developed a lot for that as well. So if you love multiplayer, again, this mod could be for you. Now, because of the fact it's only in Westeros, they've also added a bit more detail. So if we go into cultures. Now, obviously, the Game of Thrones mod does have detail for cultures, but if we go up here for, like, Beyond the Wall, Cavemen, Guildlick, Doomik, Ice Rivermen, Saliosi, Heartfen? No, there's no H there. There's a lot more different kind of cultures and stuff, and subcultures. Obviously, the North in the Game of Thrones mod has a lot of cultures, you know, Clansmen, Northmen, and Crannogmen, but this is like Flint Clansmen, Barrowmen. I know I keep comparing it to the Game of Thrones mod, but I think that's important. It's important to do that because obviously a lot of you who will be wanting to see this mod, you want to know what the differences are and why you should choose it over the Game of Thrones mod, or why maybe you should stick to the Game of Thrones mod. And so I think it is important to compare them because that's what people are going to do. And I think they've done a really good job of trying to differentiate this from the Game of Thrones mod, especially with the choice of scenario and the choice of changing the map. Those two things really add a big difference, I think. You've got Muddish, you know, Crabmen. Here we have the Bronze Men, and you can just see there's a lot more different cultures. sat here in the Vale. You got Valemen, obviously Sistermen, Crabmen, Dusklanders, Watermen, Stormlit Marchers, Reachmen, Winelanders, just so many different cultures, and of course the religious conflicts. You have the Seven spreading the Andal faith across Westeros, with the old gods trying to survive and push back with their old ways. Obviously we know in history that the Seven does kind of win over in the end in Westeros. Even the first men that do survive, that are not conquered by Andals, they kind of just convert to the Seven in order to allow peace. Which, you know, maybe at the time was smart, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe you can change that course in history. And there's actually a little one here, the Vulture. Special little religion right here. Okay, as you can see, like I said, it is a modern development, so there are a few bugs and placeholders. You can see here, you can see the Orthodox heresy picture here for the Vulture faith. Interesting. No information about it on there, apart from the different modifiers which it gives. But you can see they've definitely put a lot more detail into Westeros, seeing as that's the only area of the map we get. Of course, we have Essos a little bit over here. So those are kind of the advantages, and that's kind of the main idea of the mod. If you would like to see me do a series in this mod, I will happily do that. It's definitely something I'm interested in. I love the fact that it is a bit more concentrated in Westeros. It does have all these fractured kingdoms and different kings and stuff, and the Andals, and of course the First Men. For example, I think the stories in the Vale in the books are some of my favourite. But I'll go into that a bit more detail in a second. But if you'd love to see me do a series on this, please tell me in the comment section. Are you interested in this mod? Do you think you're going to play it for yourselves? Do you think you'll keep to the Game of Thrones mod? And if you want me to do a series in this mod, please tell me what you'd like me to play as well. I don't think I'll do a doc series, because we've already done a whole series on that. I don't think I want to do one in this mod as well. But we could kill them or conquer them or something ourselves. That could obviously be a possibility. Now I'm going to go in a bit more detail into the mod around the different areas and the different kings. So if you'd love to have a bit more detail on the mod before it's been released and the different kind of kings you can play as, stick with me now. If you have no more interest in that, you just wanted to get an idea of what the mod's about and what the differences are, I think we've kind of gone through most of the things. Like I said, there's a few features missing, like Valyrian Steel Swords, different events of course, and dragons. I've been told that the Valyrian Freehold, the ruler, known as, let's see, Viceroy Vaemond, he does get like a dragon modifier for when he's attacked. I guess it's the Flame of Valyria plus 20%. I'm assuming that's what that is. So apparently there is a modifier for the dragons for them, but we haven't got actually the dragons as people, you know, as you would in the Game of Thrones mod. So there's definitely those things in there. Like I said though, this is still a work in progress, but so far, I'm pretty excited. I'm very interested to see where this goes. I'll see you guys the next time, but if you're going to stay with me to see a bit more detail, we'll go into it now. Of course, down here in Dawn, you have quite a few interesting kingdoms. The Torrentine, you have the Star King, Varian Dane, the Danes, Star King. I love the unique names they've given a lot of these kings. You can see here as well, Bone King, Aaron Yonwood. You've got Desert King, Ulla, the Greenblood, Sun King, Quarren, and Scourger Miles. He doesn't have a king in his name, he's just the Scourger. And in Sunspear, we have Sun King Oberyn Heliaris. There's no Martells. I've been told that they are hoping to do a lot of interesting things with this mod, including the Rhoynish people coming to Dawn. That way kind of integrating with, you know, the Dornish people and creating, you know, House Martell and stuff. That sounds really fun. We're going to be really interested to see what sort of events and things they're going to add in the future. In the Reach, obviously you have a very big kingdom with the Gardener King Mern. He is pretty big. He has the Empire title. Only one of the few Empire titles in Westeros. You've got the Golden Grove with Grove King Hober Rowan. You've got Old Town, of course, with the Grey King Uther Hightower. You've also got the Vine King, the Red Wines, which I kind of like. That's a real nice one. One thing I have noticed as well, there does seem to be some geography differences in this mod and maybe maps and pictures I've seen of the world. For example, the Iron Isles seems to have way more islands than I remember in the maps. I think I read, though, on the forums that they have added a bit more things, or maybe changed the shapes of things for gameplay reasons. Like I said at the beginning, this mod was kind of made for multiplayer in mind, so they could play themselves and other people could play it a bit more stable. So, for example, events and stuff are going to be built with that in mind, I think. So it's probably closer to a vanilla experience in that way when it comes to events and stuff. I've not been able to play around with it too much, but that's what it seems. But yeah, so I think they've changed some of the land and that a bit, just to make it a bit fairer for the Iron Isles. And maybe change the sizes? I think the sizes look pretty good, though, the rest of Westeros. In the Stormlands, of course, you've got the Stormlander King. Storm King Malden, the Great Stag. He's also an Empire title. You've got, there we go, Even Star Tough. I'm just looking through kind of the interesting ones that some people might want to pop into. Wendwater, Water Prince, love that name. Obviously in Andal there. You've got Crackhall, King Roland Crackhall. Of course, you've got the Lannisters, the Rock. You've got Fair Isle, controlled by the Farmans. Even the Banefort, controlled by House Banefort. Of course they do. Is that controlled by the Tullys? No, the River King is controlled by the Blackwoods. So an interesting choice there. The God's Eye, controlled by Jesswise. An important character up here, of course. The Mud King. A lot of people are going to like that. You also have the Valerians, the Venturing Sea Snake, Duke. He's not a king, he's a duke. We also have here Langward. Huh? Where are the Celticas? Oh, there we go. Claw Isle, Adrian of Oh, did they split this in two? Wait, where is he? Adrian of Clackclaw Point. Huh, so he doesn't actually control the island, he controls these lands. Ah, there we go. Okay. That could be pretty cool one to start as. You might want to start as a Celtica. High Valerian. The Dragon Gods, they do have the Valerian faith as well. Interesting. The Royce is up here. The Bear of Claws. Darry is kind of small, actually. Yeah, just the Duke as well. The Eyrie. The High King. Arties, the Falcon Knight. Yes, many stories told about him. Runestone also controls a bit up here. And of course, over in the north, the Barrows. The Barrow King, William Dustin. Definitely probably going to be a popular choice, I think, for a lot of people. A lot of history of that family. Of course, Winter King, Theon Stark. Butter, what is wrong? I don't think my dog likes the Starks very much. We also got the Dreadlands, controlled by the Red King, Royce Bolton. So yeah, a lot of interesting choices for us to play around with, and things, people you might be interested in. Like I say, no Valerian Steel Swords or anything. I don't know if they've added much to the treasury for any of the characters. Like I say, it's still a work in progress, and has not even been released to the public yet. But still, I'm very excited for this mod, and looking forward to see where it goes. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I said, leave in the comment section if you'd love to see a series in this mod. I'd be very happy to do that if people are really interested in seeing something like that. But yeah, I'll see you then. Goodbye.